First-time business buyers keep making this huge mistake that's causing them to have to pay double taxes after they buy their business, and you absolutely need to avoid it. And so I'm going to tell you what that mistake is and exactly how you avoid it. So first of all, most businesses, not all of them, most businesses that first-time business buyers are buying are already structured as S corporations. What really is that? I'm not going to tell you all the unimportant details, but just generally, you need to know that it's a corporation or an LLC that's made an S election. And the next thing you need to know is that you need to make sure that S election is valid and stays valid. And again, your attorney is going to do that check for you, and we as M&A attorneys do that check for our clients. And here's the problem. If the S election is invalidated, or if you invalidate it, then the company will revert to, for example, if it's a corporation, it'll revert to a C corporation. And what will happen is, instead of an S corporation, I know all these entity words can be really confusing, but just go along with me here. It'll revert to a C corporation, meaning you'll get double taxed. And you might say, well, how am I getting double taxed then? What's causing that? Okay, well, what the S corporation, what the S election does, what an S corporation does for you, is it makes it so that you don't get taxed at the corporation level and then on your personal income level secondly. So that's called double taxation in this context. And so what happens is when you have the S corporation election, you're able to just get what we call pass-through taxes, meaning you only have to pay your personal taxes and not the corporate level taxes. So what are people doing wrong that is making it so that they're invalidating these S corporation elections? There's a few different ways that happens, and I'm going to tell you about them right now. So first of all, S corporations can only be owned by a very narrow set of types of entities. The main thing you need to know is that basically it can be owned by a disregarded entity, it can be owned by an individual, it can be owned by a trust, etc. So there's a very narrow band of entities that can own an S corporation. What people are doing though is they're buying an S corporation with, for example, a C corporation. You're not allowed to do that. That instantaneously, when you buy the business, so on the day of closing, that will instantaneously invalidate your S corporation election. And let me tell you, that's a big deal. And so what's another big way that people are messing this up? This is a really uncommonly identified way, because your accountants and your team has to be really good to find it. But if the seller was doing distributions before the sale of your business or the purchase of the target business, if they were doing distributions incorrectly, so if there were two owners, 50-50 owners, and they weren't getting distributions 50-50, that is one of the reasons that your S corporation election can get invalidated. There's other ways it can get validated too that are much less common. Another one of the more common ones is if you if you basically enter into an operating agreement that creates more than one class of stock, S corporations. And so you're thinking, hey, I'm going to have different classes of stock, a preferred class and a non-preferred class, a common stock class, we'd call it, for investors and for common stockholders. That's what we're going to do because we have these equity investors coming in. That sounds like a bright idea. You've probably heard of that before, and so you want to do it. The problem is if you do that, also, you're going to invalidate your S corporation election. So that's another pretty typical way people mess it up. There's way less common ways, like if you have too many shareholders, it's a really high number. You're not going to hit it most likely. Having too many shareholders will invalidate it as well. And so, that's really it. The last thing I note is that what people usually do, the final pro tip here is, you'll see this in big boy deals really frequently, not necessarily in a $1 million transaction, even though it's still valuable, is you'll hear this word sometimes called an F reorganization. The big value behind this, it's really complicated. I don't advise, I don't think it's a good use of your time to go figure out the ins and outs of an F reorg. Again, that's something your lawyer will do for you. But the big thing you need to know about F reorgs and why people use them is that F reorgs are used to preserve the S corporation election. for you. So that's the thing. Last thing I'm going to leave you with. Again, if you're buying a business, you definitely need an M&A law firm to do that for you. So I'll reach out to us at our website, principe.com. Thanks.